Hello, everyone. My name is Melanie Taylor Coombs. I'm the Adult Services Manager at MacArthur Library, and I am delighted to be working with my good friend Holly Culleton from Biddeford Gardens. And we have a wonderful speaker tonight, but I will let Holly introduce Cheryl for you.
Hi, everyone. Holly Culleton here from Biddeford Community Gardens, and I, like Melanie, I'm just so pleased to be working with her and the library on this great series of gardening reference shows. So tonight we have Cheryl Boulay. I've known Cheryl for many years, and she is a long-term member of the Saco Bay Gardening Club. And I've been over to her place. She has beautiful perennial gardens, and oftentimes will open up her gardens for tours and things like that. So tonight she's actually going to be presenting on container gardening. And I'm just going to turn it right over to Cheryl. Thank you, Cheryl, for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you, Holly. And thank you to the MacArthur Library. I'm excited to be here, a little nervous, but I'm sure we'll do fine. And I have been a member of the Saco Bay Garden Club since it began in 2001. And if anyone's not familiar with it, we are a local club for Biddeford and Saco and Old Orchard. And we had monthly meetings up until COVID, and at the Dyer Library in Saco, the first Thursday of the month. And we're hoping to resume them maybe in the fall. But we're hoping to have outdoor meetings possibly after everyone's vaccinated and social distancing included, maybe at some of the local parks. We could gather at members' homes. But I just wanted to say, if you have any garden questions or inquiries, we're a nice site. You can go on there and look and find out more about the club. And it's the SacoBayGardenClub.com. And you can go right on that and find out more information about our club and about local things that are happening in our group. So with that, I'd like to go on to container gardenings. Now, this is something new that I've come across on Facebook. And for this time of year, this is a container gardening that you can put outside. And it's called Winter Sowers. And Winter Sowers is Winter, and SOWERS is the group on Facebook that I joined. And what you do is you take a milk carton and you put soil in it. Well, you have to cut it in half. I'll show you this way. You take a milk carton and you don't detach it all the way. You leave it so it's somewhat closed. So if it gets knocked over, everything's not going to spill out. But you fill it up with soil to about here. But first, you need drainage because this is going to be outside. So if you water it, the water can flow through. And you just put a couple of holes in the bottom so that it'll drain out. Then you fill it with soil up to about here. Then you take your seed packet. It could be, now alyssum's nice, nasturtiums are nice. And the one thing about doing it this time of year is that this is April 15th, and we really cannot bring annuals outside until maybe May 30th. You can bring them out during the day, but then at night you might have to bring them back in, and that's called hardening off. You have to harden off your annuals so that if you do have a dip in the temperature, they're not going to die and you're not going to waste a lot of money on the annuals you purchase. So you have to treat them like with kid gloves at the beginning of springtime. So this is something that you can grow your own annuals or tomatoes or any vegetable that you want, and you just leave it outside at this time of year. So this way you're getting your hands dirty now, whereas if you're outside, all you can do is really lick up the leaves and look at the daffodils. And you can transplant some plants if you need to, if they're up and you need to divide them, but it's still early. So this is fun. So I wanted to show you what you do with the milk carton. But I just wanted to show you, I did this probably about 3 weeks ago. That's when I found the group. And this tape, what did I do? Oh, here it is. This is painter's tape. And you could use duct tape, but I found that they say online that it doesn't stick like the painter's tape does. So this is what I did. So I have a regular milk carton. And I'll take that away. And I'll show you just in 3 weeks, because I haven't had luck doing seedlings inside, because you really should have like a heated mat. This way, this is its own little greenhouse, and you leave it outside. You do have to check to make sure if we have like 4 real warm days like we've been having, you do have to water the soil so the little seedlings don't dry up. So, but look at that. See? And what is this? And the thing is, and this is bachelor buttons. The thing is, they say you should mark. See, you can tell I'm new to this, so the label got a little dilapidated. So unless you know what the seeds the plant looks like, you won't be able to identify it when it grows. So it's always good to mark it, and I've learned that. So what a lot of them do, if they have more than one container, is they mark it, put a popsicle in there with the number 1, and they have a notebook, and they write 1 is nasturtiums, 2 is tomatoes, 3. So some of the people on Facebook, they have probably like 20 of these. And I was just very pleased that after 3 weeks, I have some baby plants that I don't have to go out and purchase. And when this is over, I'm going to tape it back out and put it back outside by my garage. And you just have to check it, you leave it, and once they get big enough so that you can put them in a regular pot, like this size, that's what you can do. You can start transplanting them until you know where you want to place them. But I just thought that was something new that was neat that we could do now in Maine, and to get your hands dirty and to grow some small plants, where sometimes I have luck with plants indoors as far as growing them in one of these. I'll show you. See, these are the trays I'm talking about that you grow inside, and normally you have to have a heat mat underneath. So they're a little more fussy. You have to water them a lot more, whereas these don't dry out because they have their own little greenhouse, and water gets in there and collects the moisture does. So I really like this idea, and I wanted to share it with you. So that's a new kind of container. It's not fancy, but something that we can do in Maine to start producing our own annuals and save you some money. So that was called Winter Sowers, and that's on Facebook. And I'm sure you'll see it on YouTube as well. So now, for regular containers such as these that we're going to put out at the end of May, I wanted to give you a little rundown. If you're brand new at putting containers out, this is what this is all about. You want to know where you're going to put it. Would you be putting it in your patio, in your yard, near your door entrance? You'd want something a little more formal. Herbs, sometimes you put that near a kitchen door. And they have large containers, like they don't even have to be fancy. If you would like to do tomatoes, here's something that you could use for tomatoes. So they can go from all sizes and shapes. And one other thing, the rule of gardening inside your yard as well, is groupings of threes. In gardening, a lot of times you use odd numbers. And as you can see, there's 3 right here. And then if you look at these little pots, they look cute because there's 3 of them there. So grouping in odd numbers is the way to go. So that's just a little tidbit for you as well. Okay, so a lot of people like the clay pots. Have some over here. I'm glad I have a lot. I sort of moved things around, sorry. These clay pots are really good for herbs, but you do have to watch them a little more closely than other plants, other pots, because they're porous and they dry out quicker. So one thing you can do is you can paint the outside of it or the inside of it so the water does not evaporate as quickly. And they look nice. You can still tell it's a clay pot, but it is a good idea to paint them or just keep a real good eye on them because they will dry out. So, and then another one is the ceramic. These are really nice, and they look nice in the front of the house or on your patio if you have a nice spot and want to sit and have your coffee and look at everything that's out there. The ceramics are nice. They can get expensive when they get into bigger sizes, but they are very nice and colorful, and they can add to the color that you have. If you have a little color scheme going. Now, plastic is good. This is a plastic pot, and it's pretty good. So if it falls over, it's not really going to break or crack. And this particular one has a drainage already in it, so you would not have to worry about it. But this is sort of the shape that you use for herbs. A lot of people like having this size and shape, so you could put more than one or two. You can put a cluster of herbs that you like the most. And this is oregano and rosemary and sage. So, and then if you bump up against it, if you put oregano or basil or lavender, you get that smell while you're there if you happen to pass by. So that's really nice about having the herb garden. And then you can have hanging baskets. If you're short on space, hanging baskets are nice because they add dimension and it gives you a lateral. So hanging baskets are really good. And sometimes you can get them, people throwing them out. You can just recycle them and make your own hanging basket. And in the winter, what I do is I empty them out and I put a good sized rock, and then I end up using that as a bird feeder. So you can use it all year round. You just try to recycle things as much as you can. And then of course there's the whimsical things, such as putting a plant in an LL Bean boot. I've seen old bird feeders. You put a hanging plant in that. And galvanized pot. Oh yeah, the farmers. A lot of people are into the colonial look with the old-fashioned farm equipment. And the galvanized pots are awesome. I meant to bring up a watering tin, but I didn't. So, but those are some of the whimsical things you can do. And you can also do baskets. Everybody has baskets, and you see them at flea market yard sales. People are getting rid of baskets. So baskets are a good way to go as well. So before you go out to the big box stores, let's try to shop local. And the reason why I'm pushing shopping local is because we want to save bees. The bees are really need our help because pesticides, people are still using them. So if we can save the bees, some of the big box stores have a tag like this, and they say treated with pesticides. So if you see something like this that has a tag that says treated with pesticides, don't purchase the plant, because if you bring it home to your yard and plant it, the bees will land on it and they'll take the pesticide back to the hive, and the hive will die because it'll be spread throughout the whole hive. I didn't realize that. I just thought the poor bee died, but he doesn't die until he comes home with all the pollen and takes the pesticide to the beehive, and the beehive dies. And that's what's happening. And people don't really realize that. So pesticides, don't purchase things that say treated with pesticides. So where can you get plants? So there's a lot of local nurseries, a lot of farms and small garden centers. I like Andy's Agway in Dayton, Curios in Biddeford, Log Cabin Perennials in Saco, Moody's in Saco, and there's Snug Harbor Farm in Kennebunk, just to name a few. And you can also swap plants if you're growing like I might have some extra ones, and we do yeah, a swap or a plant sale. I know plant sales might be fewer and in between this time of year because of COVID, but I know people are trying to return to normal and purchase and have little things. So you'd probably be able to get some at the farmer's market as well. And farmers certainly don't use pesticides. So if we can support local, that's an important feature. And I just wanted to mention that pesticides is a major reason as well. Okay, so now what do we consider when you're using potting soil? Depending on where it is your pot going to be in full sun? Then if it is going to be in full sun, you want something with called moisture control. This has little pellets in it that help absorb water, and then it gets released as the soil needs it. So they help control moisture. So if you have something that's in a hot patio or on stones, you might want to use a moisture control. If it's half shade during the day and half sun during the rest of it, you can use regular potting soil. You can use soil from your garden as well, but I don't like to disturb my garden if I can. I like to keep my soil in there. But so sometimes I do purchase potting soil just for my pots. That way I'm not disturbing and taking nutrients out of my own garden. So that is the potting soil. And lots of these have fertilizer now, so you don't have to worry about fertilizing your annuals. Maybe say in July, the end of July, you could purchase some Miracle Grow and add a little bit something to it. And you might need to trim things down, and just because they start to get a little wild at that point. So that's what I wanted to mention about moisture control for potting soil. Okay, now another thing I wanted to mention, especially if you're new to gardening, is the drainage. A lot of these pots, some of these pots, the ceramic ones especially, they don't have drainage, and you need that, whether if the pot's outside and it's going to collect rain, or if you overwater it, you don't want the roots sitting in the water, because that's a good way to kill your plant and yellow it out especially. So what I found is I do recycling again, is I collect bottle caps. So rather than go out and buy, they have beautiful colored marbles. You don't need to buy those. You can just take some bottle caps and just make about a 1/2 inch layer in the bottom, and then put in your potting soil and your plant, and then you have your drainage. Another thing you can do is, if you have some stones, you can put your own stones in. But if you have a big pot like this, oops, you're going to plant some tomatoes and peppers. You're not going to want to fill this with stones, because you won't be able to move it. It'll get heavy once you put the stones in, then the soil, then the plant. It'll be very heavy. So what I've found is I take any bottles. You can even take the milk jug that I just had, crush it up like this, and you can put them down at the bottom of the pail. So there's about 2-3 inches of drainage. So if it gets heavy rain, you're not going to worry about, oh, I have to dump my tomatoes because they're floating in water. You can go check them out, but they're going to have this drainage in there. And another thing too, so they will be able to have extra water. They'll use that water. The soil will gather it up, and you'll have it for your tomatoes. So that's another point, that if you use recycle things, anything you can think of, rather than something heavy like rocks to put it in there, that's one thing that I do. All right. Okay, and then of course, you all see these saucers that catches. So if you do have something that has a hole in it, yeah, that has a hole. So you'd want to put that and a little saucer. These are pretty cheap. These are about 59 cents, maybe $1 at the local shops. Or you could use the old saucer that you have, or a cracked dish. We all have one of those we get a chip out of. You can put them in there. And again, you put a little drainage in there and put your pot in there. So then if it rains, it'll come out and go down there. And if it's really a lot of water, you can just pick it up and dump it out, and then you're good to go. And or if you're going away for the weekend or a couple of days, it's going to be hot, you can leave the water there and the plant will draw that up. So. Yeah, your plants don't like sitting in water. Okay, so now I just wanted to, I wanted to show you, if you're brand new to gardening or planting plants, I wanted to show you the best way to take a plant out of the pot. Especially if it's, sometimes they stick a lot. So the best way for something like this is to put your hands to hold and support the plant, so that if you have to bang it, because sometimes they do not want to come out, you might have to bang it just like that, but you hold on to the stem, and I sort of just go like this, squeeze the pot, and then it's out, and you haven't broken it, and you still have a nice plant. Now, sometimes when you get them from the garden centers, they have roots wrapped around. This one's not too bad, but you can just simply pull them off, pull them down gently, and then that way those plants can go on, and then it's all set. Well, I would add a little soil in here, probably about 2 inches, and then set that in, and then I'd put a little more soil around here, and then you press it down gently around the stem. And that's how to remove it from the pot that it's sold in. Now, you get these and you say, okay, how am I going to separate these? This is the same manner, only this is what they call a 6-pack. They also come in a plastic, and sometimes you have to poke the plastic. There's 6 individuals. This is basically 6 pansies. And you know, it's funny because pansies, they're not, sometimes they call guys that are weak pansies. Pansies are one of the toughest flowers, and why they call weaklings pansies is beyond me. All right, somebody told me that one time, and it's so true. They're one of the toughest, earliest flowers that can go out during the frost. So, okay, so you just look for a place you can stick your fingers. And again, recyclable. You could also put this like that at the bottom of the pot, and it would last for the summer. It wouldn't last for years, but it would last for that summer if you wanted to use that as a thing for drainage. So then you just sort of look, and you just simply go like that, and gently pull it apart. Then you do the same one. And again, here's your batch of 3. So you could do it that way. I'm just putting that in for a color. And put that back.
That makes me feel great.
Live. Live from Biddeford. Okay, so there's your grouping of 3 compared to a grouping of 1. Again, a grouping of 3. You see the difference? Okay, so then I also wanted to mention about having themes. You can have, when you go to gardens, sometimes people have statues or they'll have a focal point. which might be a bird bath or a statue or a basket or some kind of nautical thing. You could do the same thing with your pots if you have a favorite thing. And I made a little fairy garden out of this basket. And you can get all this little fairy figurines at the dollar store or any little secondhand store that you can go to. They weren't very expensive, and these are left over from last year, and they were out in the winter, so they did winter well. So that's a basket you can use, and was a theme. It's a fairy garden. And another thing, oh yeah, I was talking about the galvanized material. Here's the galvanized teapot. So this has a fake flower in it until we get some real ones. But see how neat that is? You can put that on your patio with the favorite tea. If you have a tea kettle you like, bring it out and put a plant in it. And here's something else. It's a little basket. And of course, if I was planting that, I'd take these out of there and put it in, and you could put that anywhere, and then you could move it whenever you wanted to. So that's, you can get these a lot of places, but it's sort of country. I like the country style. And let me see. One other thing that I'd like to do is, as I mentioned previously, is to figure out what color you'd like to go to. Sometimes I like all different colors, but say you just want blues or you want pinks or something like that. Geraniums, you might do all corals. In my backyard, I have some flower pots, flower beds, and I put all coral. I like coral, so I have all coral in that. But you could do every other color, so you want to think about that. And then, as I said, there's scented plants. A lot of people don't realize there are scented plants besides roses. There's your herbs, there's your citronella, there's your scented geraniums. There's a lot of neat things that you can put. And so if you're sitting there having a glass of wine and you bump into the citronella, you can say, it gives you, it stimulates your senses and you really get to relax and enjoy your outdoors. And then we're also attracting the bees and the butterflies. And one other thing I wanted to mention is we have regular annuals. And there's nothing wrong with regular annuals, but they have proven winners. Proven winners are like the top models of annuals. You pay a little bit more for them, but they're more fancy. Let's see, did I? Sure. Oh, I think this coleus here, see how frilly it is? This one is a little more fancier than that one. So that might be a proven winner. So that's what proven winners are. You pay a little bit more for them, but they're an upper grade variety of the regular marigold or coleus. So, and another thing you can do is bring out your house plants and intermix them with your annuals. If you have a spider plant at home that's not doing too good, and you say, I'm going to bring that outside and let it get some fresh air, it'll love it. And you could put a spider plant here and surround it with pansies, and it would be really pretty. And you wouldn't have to spend that extra money because you have a plant in the house already. And all I can say is basically is to enjoy your space, and I believe that would conclude everything that I've brought to cover. So I open it up for questions. Any questions?
Cheryl, I've got a question for you. I mean, you're an avid gardener and you've been doing, you have some pretty amazing perennial gardens over there. And you've been working on those for how long? How many years have you been at that?
About 25 years I've been at my home.
Okay. And, just on the tour a couple of tours that I've been on over there, those are well-developed perennial gardens. And you also have some planters that you incorporate in there too. Do you have favorite plants that you like to put into planters versus tucking them into the ground?
Yeah, I actually do take my my hostas, and if I can dig, they haven't popped up yet.
Excuse me.
My battery's running low in my computer. So my technician's helping me. Thank you, Ronnie.
Yep.
I'll take
Thanks, Ron.
I'll take a hosta. I'll take some of the hosta, or that's about it that I do use in my pots, because it does fill it up, and it's like a spider plant. You know, hostas go up and out. So if you had something low like this, they would look good in the, you know. So
Nice.
I have sort of a comment rather than a question.
sure.
This was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Like, I've been to a lot of programs, and this was so unbelievably well organized with really useful information.
Oh, thank you. Well,
So I know you were nervous, but I mean, really just phenomenally good. And I think it's going to be very popular on our YouTube channel.
oh, thank you.
So really more just a comment, but then I have a question that's kind of unrelated, because you mentioned houseplants.
Yes.
So I have tons of houseplants, and I haven't repotted them in ages. Do you know anybody that's really, or do you have any suggestions about houseplants? Because
Yeah, I would get some of this potting soil. Get a table like this, and you're gonna have some roots wrapped around like I showed you on this plant, but it may be more. So don't be afraid to pull at the roots to get them out, because it's like our hair. We all need a haircut once in a while. It's the same way with plants. So if you trim it out, trim them down and let it loose, the plant's gonna like it. And then you put it in just a slightly bigger pot. It doesn't have to be humongous, you know, the next pot, just like this pot, if it outgrew this pot, you'd put it in this pot. See? And I would just put a table, get a plan, and get a couple of pots and figure out what colors you want and which pots go with what. And don't be afraid. I've even used a knife to cut the roots, just to, you know, because sometimes they're real bundled up if you get them sometimes from places. And you don't be afraid to take a little sharp knife and cut them so that you can pull them loose, and they'll be so happy. So that would be about.
Oh, we lost her. Uh-oh.
oh, that must have been power.
Right.
Oh, we lost one other person too.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, I added them back. That was so good, Holly.
good. I'm glad.
Amazing. Like, so much useful information. I never realized that, like, you know, you put things in threes.
Yeah.
But then when she was saying, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. I love it. And I didn't know that about the clay pots pulling the water from, because that's a huge problem for me.
With your house plants?
No, with outside plants, I have really, really direct sunlight in the front, and I've tried to have annuals out front. And what happens is I water them, I go to work, and they're gone before I get home that night, because I have such direct sun that the plant dries out while I'm at work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So this is really helpful, because I think what I'll do is do, like, you know, big plastic containers rather than the terracotta ones. And then if I put those where New Dog is trying to climb into the garden, that should be helpful.
You know, the other thing, if you like really nice clay pots, you could tuck a plastic container inside the clay pot. So it's able to hold in the moisture, but you still have the beauty of the clay pot on the outside.
Oh, that's a good idea too.
Yeah, I've done that. So, I actually loved what Cheryl did with the plastic milk jug or the water jug. You know,
Yeah.
it creates its own little micro climate. You know, I love that. So, and how
you
cheap is
recycle
that?
and I never would have thought of, I always put stones in the bottom of the pots, and like she said, the big clay pots, they're so heavy to move.
Right.
So it never would have occurred to me to use plastic bottles. That's so brilliant. Like there's so many things I'm taking away from this.
Right.
There
So
were,
do you have a lot of really large houseplants, Melanie?
Oh, is that you, Brooke?
so no, at some point there were actually, Bridget had asked some questions in the chat, but
Oh.
since we lost Cheryl, I don't, at some point I can read those out. One of them was wondering the best place around to buy proven winter pesticide free plants, and another where to buy like native plants. And I know that Holly's a big gardener as well, so I didn't know if she wanted to weigh in on those, but yeah.
Where to buy native plants? Well, I think there's the log cabin perennials. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but he
I
only
have.
charges $5, right? $5 a plant. And I think most of his are native, aren't they?
Yeah, they're. I don't know if they're native, but I mean, I love him because it's all field grown.
Right, right.
I think he only does perennials, right? Log cabin
I
perennials.
think
don't
so.
think he does-
And when he's done. So
and
they
he's-
sells out
and
quickly.
so it starts like May 1st.
Mhm.
Because I mean, it has been so warm. I looked it up to see whether he was going to do anything early because my plants are starting to come up and it is early for them.
It is pretty early.
But last year I went and I got like just a bunch of stuff for shade because like I've got direct sun on one side and then complete shade on the other side. And I bought 20 different plants and put them all together. And he's so knowledgeable and helpful. Last year it was really hard because of COVID. So yeah, for sort of locally grown stuff. And I would also, if you're looking for native plants, I would look at the native Wild Seed Project?
Yes, out of Portland. Yeah, you could give them
And-
a call and yeah.
And we've had them, you know, maybe that's somebody that we could have back again too. We had them come and speak a couple of years ago on native plants and the real importance of using native plants. And they have great, there's Cheryl now. They have great suggestions on what kind of plants you can plant in Maine to replace lawns and things. And yeah, they were great.
Hi, I'm back.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi.
We missed you.
I'm sorry, my plug fell out.
And I am
The other
having,
thing I was going to say is O'Donnell's Nursery out in on Route 114 is another great greenhouse, and they're very knowledgeable.
Yes,
And of course, I'm a huge fan of Broadway Gardens.
yes, oh yes, Broadway Gardens is very nice.
Broadway Gardens is great, and they have a pretty good shade selection too over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had them come and they've been guest speakers at the Garden Club. We've had them a couple of times, actually.
Right.
Yeah, and we love Andy Zagway too, out in Dayton, like you
Yes.
said, because they've been very supportive of our gardening endeavors in Biddeford.
Yes,
And when we started the program, they've they've been guest speakers a couple of times and just really supportive of us. And it's it's a nice place to visit. It's
yes, a
beautiful.
nice family-owned business.
Yeah.
And of course, I am still a very diehard fan of the Green Mountain Transplants, which is also an
Yep.
Agway store. And you know what, I buy all my bird supplies there too. But the thing about the Green Mountain Transplants is they're an amazing selection of pots for both houseplants and outdoor potted gardens. So, and their tools, I mean, every gardening tool under the sun, they have it. So,
Yeah.
Is that the one that's right on 111?
yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's my
And-
mom's favorite.
They've been kind of upgrading a little bit too, I've noticed in just this last year, and maybe COVID, allowed them a little time to slow down and catch up. But
Yep.
they've made some modifications and so it's worth a trip for sure.
well, I want to thank you for all this. I am having myself trouble with my equipment. So I apologize. I am not on video and I froze and I had, it got me out of the meeting. But I wanted to say to Cheryl, thank you for this fantastic presentation. This is Brigitte speaking.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, hi. We are both at the Garden Club.
Yeah, I know right who you are, yeah.
This presentation was so interesting. Thank you so much. And thank you to the other ladies for jumping in and giving me all these wonderful places. I am going to go to each single one of them. You know, we are still new in this area. So we have to learn everything. And to me, the most important is about flowers and where to buy those, you know, those plants, the seeds and pesticide-free plants, native plants. That's even more important to me than finding out what is a good garage or a good plumber or a good electrician. I need that too, but I mean, plants are more important, right?
Yeah, word of mouth.
I've got two more places too to share with you.
I'm ready.
And one of them is Frugal Farmer. I don't know if you've ever been out there, but you
No.
take Route 112 out through Saco and cross over Route 202 into Buxton. And you'll see a sign on your right, just before Snell's Family Farm. There's a little street and you'll see the sign to Frugal Farmer. And it's about a mile down the road after you've taken that right. And she is a master gardener and she is fantastic. And her plants, her vegetables are top notch.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, and affordable. So
Nice.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Now, I am sure that everything that you mentioned so far, I wrote down the log cabin perennial, the wild seed project, the Donald Nursery, the Broadway Garden, the Green Mountain Transplant, and the Frugal Farmer. I totally assume that all these places are pesticide free, right? I mean,
I would imagine.
okay.
I think some of them are, but I don't know that. I think that would be one of those questions you'd have to ask them up front. And they probably
Okay.
offer, you know, if they don't offer all pesticide free, at least some of them are.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks.
Yeah, and what is it? The Nicanoi. I can't say it, the ones that are really detrimental to the bees.
Right.
Nicanoids.
Oh, neonicotinoids.
Yeah, that's
I
exactly
can never
what it
say
is.
that.
It's NEONICOTINOIDS.
Mhm.
And that's exactly why I didn't try to pronounce it.
They
Yeah,
are
those
very, it's very
a
bad
lot of
for
people are teaching to
pollinators.
got rid of those.
I was just in a presentation yesterday with the founder of the Monarch Watch. His name is Chip Taylor, and he talked about this pesticide, and it's really devastating for monarch butterfly, for all the pollinators, bees, and everything.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to share with you guys too that one of our local city councilors, Amy Clearwater, reached out to me here in Biddeford and asked if I would approach our mayor about the mayor's Monarch pledge. And it's a national movement to have the mayors of all of our towns and cities sign on to agree to preserve monarch habitat and to create new habitat for pollinators. And Alan Cassavant said yes.
Oh,
So
Wow.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I know.
well, you know, it's funny because you need milkweed for monarch butterflies for the caterpillars. Did you know that?
Yes,
Yeah.
and in fact, we've been leaving them in all of our public gardens, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I should get some seeds from you because I know it would drive my neighbors crazy, but I would love to plant some of those in my gardens.
And they
I
smell wonderful, by the way.
I need those. I used to have like a forest of milkweed. We used to live in north of Chicago, and
Yeah.
we had so many milkweed and so many butterflies. We were actually Monarch certified pathway. And here I don't have, I just have 2 little baby tiny milkweed that I grew last year. All my other seeds was eaten. Everything was eaten by birds and all kinds. So I'm not very successful at growing milkweed around here. I'm not sure why.
You can.
Well, I definitely have, we'll have opportunities probably this fall to collect more milkweed seed. And maybe that's something that the Saco Bay Gardening Club could work on too.
Yeah, I have a funny story. When my children were small, I took them to one of those butterfly pavilions, and I bought the caterpillar that turns into the monarch butterfly, and they gave us some milkweed, and they say he only eats milkweed, so you're gonna need milkweed. So I'm like, yeah, right. So I bring him home in this little dome, and it has a stick and everything, and the caterpillar ate all the milkweed. So I tried giving him a maple leaf, and I tried giving him something else, wouldn't eat it. So I end up going to like an abandoned parking lot, you know, and that's where you find milkweed, is in
Right.
gravel. And I end up bringing some home, and then he ended up turning, and I thought they made their cocoons, but they actually, the wings, no, they evolve, and the wings are the cocoon, and then they open up.
Mm,
It's really interesting.
it
Well,
really
you know,
is.
they
It's one of
cannot
those
eat
great.
anything but milkweed, because for them, milkweed is going to be the protection, because it tastes horrible. And once a bird eats one of those butterfly, it will never go back because they taste
Oh.
very bad. That is the reason for milkweed. It's a natural protection for them. And the caterpillar cannot eat anything but milkweed. We very successfully raised a bunch of caterpillar in Illinois, and we left many monarch go out free, and it's a beautiful experience. It's something beautiful to do.
Yeah.
And it's like our dandelions that people have been digging up out of their yards every year and out of their lawns, but dandelions are bees' first food of the year. So things that we, you know, just have taken for granted that they're supposed to be bad and weeds, and we want them out of our gardens. We should be saving them and preserving them.
You can eat them. We eat them in France. We eat dandelion. It's
Oh,
a
yes.
very good salad you can make with it. You have to
They're
take it when
delicious.
it's young, because otherwise it becomes bitter. But when it's young, it's very good.
Thank you for that, Bridget.
You're welcome.
I think that having somebody speak about monarch butterflies would be wonderful.
I do too.
Well, we have videos of monarch. We have everything. We have videos of monarch coming out, and photos. We have like dozens. We have a lot of documentation, and we've been wanting to put it together to give presentation in nursing homes. And then COVID came, and COVID kind of stopped everything of this kind.
Yeah.
We could put something together virtually if you think that it would work virtually. I love stuff like that. So I mean, it would be fun to put together for the library.
Yeah.
So feel
That'd
free
be
to reach
great.
out to me if you'd like.
We should, because we really have wonderful videos. I mean, when you see a butterfly coming out of the cocoon, it's just a very unique experience. And then some of them, they just don't want to leave you. They stay on your finger, you know, and they look at you and they say goodbye.
Oh.
Some of them, you let them out and boom, they fly right away. They don't want to hear anything about you anymore. It's very different. It's amazing.
Would be enjoyable.
My this is a little side story, but my mother used to work as a toll collector on the Main Turnpike, and one summer evening she felt something on her finger, and it was kind of dark in the toll booth. It was at night, and she looked down and she had a praying mantis that had crawled up on her hand and was clinging to her index finger. So she said it was kind of, it shocked her, but she just kind of watched it and let it stay there. So
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, they're amazing.
yeah.
That's awesome. Well, this was wonderful, everyone. I'm so glad that we did this. Cheryl, I was just raving while you weren't online with us, because I've got so many ideas now.
Good, good.
Like, I'm so excited about them. It's not even funny.
That's good. Spring fever.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, except for the snow tomorrow, right? Like,
I know.
We need moisture though.
yeah, we do. We really do. It'll be good, except my dogs will be very muddy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I just have one more question, if I may. Cheryl, again, thank you so much for this presentation. That was
no
a
problem.
very good learning experience. I would like to know, I am going to do seedling for the first time in my life. It's just about time at my age. But I'm wondering, what kind of dirt do you recommend to use for, for seeds?
Are you gonna plant it directly in the garden, or are you
Oh,
going
no.
to try that Sutter with the gallon of milk?
No, I have too many birds for that.
You
I
what?
will try. I love this idea. Thank you for that. Yeah, I love that.
Bridget, they have seed starter soil, which is a little lighter weight than the typical plant soil. And it allows for the little delicate roots to really start to move through the soil and set in. So you can get a good seed starter soil at just about any Agway or nursery.
Oh, great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I want to know when I can come to Cheryl's garden.
Yeah.
Like,
Once the hostas start popping out, right now they're not up, so it's not so muddy. I'll be glad to have you over.
that'd be great. I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah, I'll talk to you at the library when I'm out front.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for joining. And I know there might be more questions, or people that are watching this as a recording might have questions. So you can always contact me at the library, and I will definitely be in touch with Cheryl and Holly to help answer questions. If you have any tech questions, please feel free to send them through to Brooke, our technology librarian, who is here giving us backup to make sure things go smoothly. And a huge, huge thank you to Cheryl for this unbelievably wonderful program.
Well, it was fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Cheryl. Thanks,
Cheryl.
Melanie. Bye, Brooke. Bye, Bridget.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Thank you.